The Velthari Empire stretched across 1,000 star systems. They had conquered worlds that most species could not even imagine. Their ships moved faster than light. Their weapons could turn planets to dust. And at the center of it all sat Emperor Kale, the ruler who had lived for 300 years and feared nothing in the universe. Nothing except things he did not understand. 3 months ago, Earth had joined the Empire. The humans did not fight. They could not fight. When the Velthari ships appeared in their sky, blocking out the sun itself, the humans looked up and knew that resistance meant death. So they surrendered. They bowed their heads and accepted their place as servants in an empire that saw them as little more than useful animals. Emperor Kale sat in his throne room, reading reports about human integration. The numbers were good. Humans worked hard. They followed orders. They did not rebel like the Karathi had rebelled. They did not poison their masters like the Selvians had tried. They simply worked. This bothered him. Every species the Velthari had conquered showed hatred. It was natural. It was expected. A conquered people should hate their conquerors. They should dream of revenge. They should whisper plans in dark corners and wait for their chance to strike. But the humans smiled. Kale pulled up a surveillance feed from his own palace. He watched a human woman cleaning the floors of the Eastern Wing. Her name was Yuna. She was 32 years old. She had been a teacher on Earth before the conquest. Now she cleaned floors, and she was humming. Kale leaned forward in his throne. He watched her move from room to room, wiping surfaces, arranging items, working with a speed and care that impressed even him. She spoke politely to every servant she passed. She bowed to the Velthari nobles who walked by without looking at her. She never complained. She never frowned. What was wrong with her? The door to the throne room opened, and High Advisor Torin entered. He was old for a Velthari, nearly 200 years, and he had served Kale for most of that time. His silver skin was marked with the scars of political battles won through patience and ruthlessness. "You are watching the human again," Torin said. "She confuses me." "She is performing, Your Majesty. Humans are prey animals. They learned long ago that showing weakness invites death. So they smile. They bow. They pretend to be happy. But inside, they are calculating, waiting, planning." Kale considered this. It made sense. Survival through deception was a valid strategy. Many species used it, but then his eyes moved to the small figure walking beside Yuna, a child. 7 years old. Her name was Hannah, and the child, Kale asked, "Is she also calculating?" Torin made a dismissive sound. "Children learn from their parents. She is being trained to deceive just like her mother." Kale watched Hannah on the screen. She was skipping beside her mother, holding a worn book against her chest. As they passed a Velthari guard, the child waved at him. The guard did not respond. He did not even look at her, but Hannah did not seem upset. She simply kept skipping. Later, Kale watched the child approach a group of servants eating their midday meal. She walked up to a Karathi worker, a large creature with blue skin and 4 arms, and held out something small, a flower. She had found it somewhere in the palace gardens. The Karathi stared at her like she had lost her mind. He did not take the flower. He turned away and continued eating. Hannah looked at the flower in her hand. For a moment, her small face showed sadness. Then she placed the flower on the table beside the Karathi and walked away. Kale replayed that moment 7 times. Why would she do that? What did she gain? The Karathi had nothing to offer her. He was a servant just like her. He could not help her. He could not protect her. Giving him a flower served no purpose, unless the purpose was simply kindness. Kale rejected this thought immediately. Kindness without purpose was waste. Every action should have a goal. Every gift should expect a return. This was the foundation of civilization. This was how empires were built. But humans were strange. He pulled up more surveillance footage. He watched Yuna help another servant carry heavy equipment, even though it was not her job. He watched her share her food with a hungry worker who had lost his ration card. He watched her sit with an elderly Selvian who was crying alone in a hallway, holding his hand and saying nothing. He watched Hannah draw pictures and leave them outside, servant quarters. He watched her try to teach a Velthri child a human game called patty cake. The Velthri child's parents pulled him away in horror as if Hannah carried some disease. But Hannah did not cry. She did not grow angry. She simply found someone else to talk to. These humans were either the greatest actors in the galaxy, or they were something the Velthri had never encountered before. Torin spoke again. Your Majesty, I must advise caution. Humans should not be allowed in the private wing of the palace. The woman Yuna has access to areas near your personal chambers. This is a security risk. She has been searched. She carries no weapons, no communication devices. The risk remains. I recommend transferring her to the outer facilities. Kale was quiet for a long moment. He watched Yuna on the screen. She was teaching Hannah how to fold cleaning cloths, showing her small hands the proper technique. The child was laughing at her own mistakes.
Wow, Kale said finally.
I want to see more, Your Majesty. I want to understand them, and I cannot understand them from a distance. Torin's face showed worry, but he knew better than to argue twice. He bowed and left the throne room. Emperor Kale continued watching the screen. He watched Yuna kiss her daughter's forehead. He watched Hannah wrap her small arms around her mother's neck. He watched them hold each other like nothing else in the universe mattered. He had conquered 10,000 worlds. He had ended civilizations. He had watched stars die, but he had never seen anything like this, and it terrified him. Emperor Kale had made his decision. He would test the humans himself. For 300 years, he had survived assassination attempts, political betrayals, and wars that burned across galaxies. He had learned that trust was a weakness. Every smile hid a knife. Every kind word carried poison. The only way to know someone's true nature was to watch them when they believed no one was watching. So he created a trap. He ordered all guards removed from his private study chamber. He told the surveillance team to shut down their monitors for the evening. Then he summoned Yuna and gave her a simple command. Clean his private study while he rested in his meditation alcove. You will not be disturbed, he told her. I require absolute silence during my restoration cycle. Do not speak to me. Do not approach me. Simply complete your work and leave. Yuna bowed low. Yes, Your Majesty. What she did not know was that Kale had recording implants in his own eyes. What she did not know was that he would not truly be sleeping. The Velthari did not sleep like humans did. They entered a state of half-consciousness, their minds still aware of their surroundings. But Kale had spent decades perfecting the appearance of deep sleep. He could slow his breathing, relax his muscles, and appear completely vulnerable. It was the perfect trap. If Yuna had any plans against him, this would be her chance. His private study contained data chips with military secrets. His personal terminal held access codes to weapon systems. His collection of artifacts included items worth more than some planets. If she was a spy, she would reveal herself tonight. If she was an assassin, she would strike. And if she was innocent, well, Kale would know that too. Yuna arrived at the study chamber as the evening cycle began. Kale watched her through the corner of his eye as she entered. She moved quietly, carefully, like a small animal trying not to wake a predator. Good instincts, he thought. At least she understood danger. But then he noticed something that made his jaw tighten. She was not alone. Behind her, holding her hand, was Hannah. Kale remained perfectly still. This was not part of his plan. The child changed everything. Children were unpredictable. They did not follow rules. They did not understand consequences. Yuna guided Hannah to a corner of the study, far from the Emperor's alcove. She whispered so softly that even Kale's enhanced hearing barely caught the words. Sit here, baby. Be very, very quiet. The Emperor is sleeping, and we must not wake him. Can you do that for Mommy? Hannah nodded seriously. She sat down on the floor and opened her worn picture book. Kale recognized it from the surveillance footage. It was one of the few things they had brought from Earth. The pages were soft from being turned thousands of times, YUNA. began her work, Kale watched her through barely open eyes. She cleaned with the same care and efficiency he had seen in the surveillance feeds. She dusted surfaces that were already clean. She polished metals that already shined. She arranged items that were already perfectly placed, but she never touched anything she should not touch. She never looked at his terminal. She never approached his artifacts. Disappointing in a way. He had expected more. 30 minutes passed. Hannah remained in her corner, looking at her book. Occasionally she would whisper the words to herself, moving her lips as she read. She was learning. Even here in the palace of the creature who had conquered her world, she was trying to learn. Then she shifted uncomfortably. She tugged at her mother's sleeve. "Mommy," she whispered. "I need to go to the bathroom." Yuna's face showed panic. Leaving the Emperor's chamber without permission was against protocol. Taking a child through the restricted corridors was dangerous. But Hannah was young. She could not wait. Yuna made her decision. She walked to the door, holding Hannah's hand. Before she left, she looked back at the sleeping Emperor. For a moment, Kale thought she might say something. But she simply bowed her head and slipped out with her daughter. The door closed. The room fell silent. Kale waited. He counted the seconds. He expected Yuna to return within 3 minutes. The nearest washroom was close. She would hurry, but at 2 minutes, the door opened again. Small footsteps. Soft breathing. The sound of a child walking alone. Kale's eyes were barely open, but he could see her. Hannah had come back by herself. She was looking around the room, searching for something, her picture book. She had left it on the floor. The child walked to the corner and picked up her book. She held it against her chest like it was precious treasure. Then she turned to leave, but she stopped. She was looking at him. Kale felt something he had not felt in a very long time. His muscles tensed. His heart beat faster. Every instinct screamed at him to move, to react, to defend himself. A child was approaching him while he appeared helpless. This was exactly how the Selvian Empress had been killed 2 centuries ago. A child assassin. A hidden blade. A moment of false trust. Hannah took a step toward him. Then another. Kale calculated 17. Different ways to kill her before she could reach him. He could move faster than her eyes could follow. He could end this in less than a second, but he did not move. He wanted to see. What she would do? Hannah walked all the way to his alcove. She stood at the edge, her small face serious. She looked at his hand, which was resting on the cold stone beside him. She looked at his face, ancient and scarred and frightening. Then she reached into her pocket. Kale's whole body prepared to strike. She pulled out a small piece of cloth. It was old and worn, clearly something she treasured. A handkerchief. Perhaps the only one she owned, and she placed it gently over his hand. So you don't get cold. She whispered. Emperor Kale did not move. He could not move. For the first time in 300 years, he had no idea what to do. The handkerchief was light. It weighed almost nothing. But to Emperor Kale, it felt heavier than a mountain. He lay perfectly still, his hand covered by the worn cloth. The child stood beside him, her small face filled with concern. Not fear, not calculation. Not the careful performance of someone trying to deceive. Just simple, honest concern. Kale had conquered civilizations. He had ended wars with a single command. He had watched billions bow before him. But this small human child was looking at him like he was just a tired person who needed help. It made no sense. The Velthari did not feel cold. Their bodies regulated temperature perfectly. They could survive in frozen wastelands or burning deserts without discomfort. This handkerchief served no practical purpose. It could not help him. It could not protect him. But Hannah did not know that. She only saw someone resting on cold stone. She wanted to help. The child tilted her head, studying his face. Kale kept his breathing slow and steady, maintaining the appearance of sleep. But inside, his mind was racing. What would she do next? Would she try to wake him? Would she call for help? Would she finally show her true nature? Hannah frowned. It was a small frown, gentle and sad. You look sad, she whispered. Kale almost broke his act. Sad. He was the emperor of 1,000 worlds. He had everything any being could want. Power, wealth, immortality. How could he possibly look sad? But the child continued, her voice soft as falling leaves. Mommy says when people look sad, you should be nice to them. She says sometimes people are sad because they're lonely. Are you lonely, Mr. Emperor? The words hit Kale like a physical blow. Lonely. He had not thought about loneliness in 200 years. He had advisors, generals, servants, and subjects. He was surrounded by people every moment of every day. Millions would die at his command. Billions spoke his name with fear. But when was the last time someone had spoken to him with kindness? When was the last time someone had looked at him without wanting something? Hannah reached into her pocket again. Kale watched through his barely open eyes as she pulled out a folded piece of paper. She unfolded it carefully, smoothing the creases with her small fingers. It was a drawing. The paper was rough and cheap. It's probably taken from a supply closet somewhere. The colors were simple, made with basic crayons that children used. But the image was clear. 2 figures stood under a yellow sun. One was small, with black hair and a smile. The other was tall, with a crown on his head. They were holding hands. I made this for you, Hannah said. Mommy helps me draw sometimes, but I made this one all by myself. See, that's you, and that's me. I gave you a crown because you're the emperor, and I made the sun really big because I want you to be happy. She placed the drawing beside him, next to his covered hand. Now you have a friend, she said. So you're not lonely anymore. Kale did not breathe. He could not breathe. Something was happening inside his chest that he did not understand. It was not pain. It was not anger. It was something else entirely, something he had no name for. Hannah patted his hand gently. The way a parent might comfort a child. Sleep well, Mr. Emperor, she whispered. I hope you have nice dreams. Then she picked up her picture book and walked to the door. She moved quietly, trying not to make noise. At the door, she turned back and looked at him one more time. She smiled a small smile, happy that she had helped. Then she was gone. The door closed. The room fell silent. Emperor Kale lay in his alcove, surrounded by artifacts worth more than planets. Treasures collected over 3 centuries of conquest, and all he could see was a child's drawing. He did not move for 7 minutes. His body refused to respond to his commands. His mind kept replaying the same moments over and over. The handkerchief, the drawing, the soft words. You look sad. Are you lonely? Now you have a friend. Finally, slowly, Kale sat up. He looked at his hand, still covered by the small cloth. He picked it up and held it to the light. It was nothing special, just fabric worn thin by years of use. It probably meant a great deal to the child. It might have been her only handkerchief. And she had given it to him, a stranger, a conqueror, a monster. He picked up the drawing. The lines were uneven. The proportions were wrong. The colors did not match reality. But the 2 figures were smiling. They were happy. They were holding hands. When was the last time someone had held his hand? Kale sat in silence as the minutes passed. He heard the door open, heard Una return with her daughter. He heard them gather their supplies and prepare to leave. He heard Hannah whisper something to her mother, probably asking if the emperor was still sleeping. He did not let them know he was awake after they left. He remained in his alcove. He stared at the drawing until the evening cycle ended and the artificial dawn began. He thought about everything he knew about humans. He thought about everything he believed about kindness, and he realized that he understood nothing. For 300 years, he had believed that every gift had a price. Every kindness was a transaction. Every smile hid a demand. But this child had given him everything she had, and she had asked for nothing in return. Either everything he knew about the universe was wrong, or this small human girl was the most dangerous creature he had ever encountered. Kale looked at the drawing one more time. The figures were holding hands under a yellow sun and for reasons he could not explain, he did not want to let it go. The next morning, Emperor Kale did something he had never done before. He reviewed his own recordings not for evidence of betrayal, but to understand something that had no name. He sat in his private chamber, watching the footage from his eye implants play across the screen. He watched Hannah approach him. He watched her place the handkerchief on his hand. He watched her give him the drawing. He watched her pat his hand and wish him well. He watched it 17 times. Each time, he searched for something false. A flicker of calculation in her eyes. A moment of hesitation that suggested training. Any sign that this was an act, a performance, a trick designed to fool him. He found nothing. The child's biometrics were clear. Her heart rate had been calm throughout. Her neural patterns showed no deception. Her body language was consistent with genuine emotion. She had not been performing. She had simply been kind. Kale stood and walked to his window. Outside, the imperial city stretched to the horizon, a monument to Velthari power. Ships moved through the sky like metal birds. Towers reached toward the clouds. Millions of beings lived and worked and died, all under his rule, and he felt nothing. He had felt nothing for a very long time. The door chimed. High Advisor Torin entered, his silver face arranged in careful neutrality. Your Majesty, I have the security report from last night. The human woman completed her duties without incident. She and her child left the chamber at the expected time. There was nothing unusual to report. Kale did not turn from the window. The child approached me. Torin's voice sharpened. What? Your Majesty? This is a serious breach. I will have them both detained immediately. No, but the protocol clearly states, she gave me a gift. Silence. Kale finally turned to face his advisor. He held up the drawing, the simple picture of 2 figures under a yellow sun. Torin stared at it like it might explode. Your Majesty, this is obviously a manipulation tactic. The humans are known for, she covered my hand with her handkerchief because she thought I might be cold. A calculated gesture to create false intimacy. She told me I looked sad. She asked if I was lonely. Torin's face twisted with confusion. These are psychological techniques. The humans must have trained her too. She is 7 years old. Your Majesty, children can be trained from birth. The humans are devious. They understand how to exploit emotional weaknesses. This child was sent to you deliberately to plant seeds of sympathy that she did not know I was watching. Gale's voice was quiet but hard. She believed I was asleep. She had no reason to perform. And when she left, she took nothing. She asked for nothing. She expected nothing. He walked toward Torin, the drawing still in his hand. When is the last time someone gave me a gift without wanting something in return? Torin opened his mouth, then closed it. He had no answer. When is the last time someone looked at me with concern for my well-being? Again, silence. When is the last time anyone in this empire did something kind for me simply because they wanted to? Torin's expression shifted from confusion to fear. Your Majesty, I do not understand what you are asking. Neither do I. Kale turned away. Leave me. I have research to do. After Torin left, Kale accessed the Imperial archives. He searched for everything about human history and culture. He had studied them before, of course. He knew about their wars, their weapons, their political systems. He knew their weaknesses and their resources. He knew how to conquer them, but he had never tried to understand them. Now, he read about things that had seemed unimportant before. He read about human art, the paintings and sculptures and songs they created for no reason except beauty. He read about human religion, the faiths they built around invisible things they called hope and love. He read about human families, the bonds they formed that could not be broken by distance or death. He found stories that made no sense to him. A human soldier carrying a wounded enemy to safety instead of killing him. A human mother giving her food to her children and starving herself. A human stranger jumping into freezing water to save a drowning child he had never met. He found a word that had no translation in the Velthari language. Compassion, the closest he could find, was weakness for others. willingness to suffer so that someone else might not. For 300 years, Kale had believed this was foolishness. Weakness was weakness. The strong survived. The weak died. This was the law of the universe. But humans did not follow this law. They chose to be weak for each other. They chose to suffer for strangers. They chose to give everything and expect nothing. And somehow, despite everything, they had not only survived, they had covered an entire planet. Kale looked at the drawing again. 2 figures holding hands. A yellow sun. He thought about Hannah's soft words. Now you have a friend. He had never had a friend. He had allies, servants, subjects, and enemies, but never a friend. The concept was foreign to him. It suggested a relationship without hierarchy, an equal standing, a connection based on something other than power. It suggested that someone might care about him, not because he was the emperor, but simply because he existed. The thought was terrifying. The thought was wonderful. Kale sat alone. In his chamber, as the day passed, he did not eat. He did not sleep. He simply thought about everything he had believed, and everything he was beginning to doubt. Outside, the empire continued as it always had. Ships flew. Soldiers marched. Conquered peoples served their masters. Nothing had changed. But inside the emperor's chest, something was different. Something small and warm had begun to grow, and he did not want to kill it. 1 month later, the Velthari High Council gathered in the imperial throne room. They came from every corner of the empire, powerful lords and ancient generals, advisors who had shaped galactic history. They stood in perfect rows, their silver faces showing nothing. Waiting for their emperor to speak, rumors had spread through the empire like fire. The emperor had gone mad, they whispered. He had been seen walking through servant quarters, speaking with common workers. He had asked a human woman about her family, her home, her daughter. He had ordered cushions placed in his meditation alcove cushions. Like some soft-skinned primitive who could not handle hard stone, something was very wrong with him, Emperor Kale. The great doors opened. Kale entered, his ancient robes flowing behind him, but in his hand he carried something strange. A small frame, simple and undecorated. The council members strained to see what was inside. Kale took his place on the throne. He looked at the assembled lords and generals, beings who commanded armies and controlled star systems. They stared back at him with carefully hidden fear. 32 species exist under Velthari rule, Kale began. His voice was calm, measured, the voice of an emperor who had spoken to crowds for 3 centuries. Each was conquered. Each was studied. Each was given a value based on their usefulness to the empire. The council members nodded. This was known. This was tradition. I have ruled for 300 years, Kale continued. In that time, I have received 10,000 gifts. Treasure from conquered worlds. Weapons from defeated generals. Tribute from species begging for mercy. Paused. Every gift came with a request. Every kindness expected payment. Every show of loyalty was, in truth, a show of fear. He held up the small frame. 1 month ago, a human child gave me this. Council members leaned forward. Inside the frame was a drawing. A child's drawing. 2 figures holding hands under a yellow sun. Whispers rippled through the room. Some lords looked confused. Others looked disgusted. A child's drawing? This was what the emperor wanted to show them? She did not know I was watching, Kale said. She believed I was asleep. She approached me because she thought I might be cold, so she covered my hand with her handkerchief, only one she owned. She looked at my face and told me I looked sad. She asked if I was lonely. She turned the frame so everyone could see the simple drawing. Then she gave me this. She said she made it so I would have a friend, so I would not be lonely anymore. The council was silent. No one knew what to say. She asked for nothing, Kale said. She expected nothing. She was not performing for an audience. She was not trying to gain favor. She simply saw someone who she thought was suffering, and she wanted to help. He lowered the frame and looked at his lords and generals. I have studied humans extensively this past month. They are not like other species. They are not prey animals, pretending to be tame. They are not clever deceivers, waiting for their chance to strike. They are something far more dangerous. The council tensed. Weapons? Assassins? Hidden technology? They are creatures who will show kindness to their conquerors, who will love those who have taken everything from them, who will teach their children to comfort monsters. Kale stood from his throne. He walked down the steps until he stood among his council, something he had never done before. This empire was built on fear. Fear is powerful. Fear is efficient. Fear keeps order and prevents rebellion. He looked at each face, one by one. But I have ruled through fear for 300 years, and in all that time, not one of you has given me something simply because you cared about me. Not one of you has asked if I was sad or lonely. Not one of you has looked at me and seen anything other than power to be feared or used. He held up the drawing. A 7-year-old human girl gave me more genuine kindness in 5 minutes than this entire empire has given me in 3 centuries. Silence in the throne room was complete. No one moved. No one breathed. Effective immediately, Kale said. Human servants will receive full citizenship rights within the empire. Human children will be admitted to imperial academies alongside Velthari youth. Human culture, art, and history will be studied not as a threat assessment, but as a subject of value and importance. High Advisor Torin stepped forward, his face pale with shock. Your Majesty, this is unprecedented. The other species will see it as weakness. They will think, let them think what they wish. Kale's voice was iron. For 300 years, I have been strong. I have crushed rebellions. I have destroyed planets. I have made the galaxy tremble at my name. He looked at the drawing in his hand. And I have been alone. He turned to face the full council. The humans have something we do not have. They call it compassion. It means choosing to care about others even when it costs you something. It means being kind when kindness gains you nothing. It means loving strangers, helping enemies, and teaching your children that even monsters deserve comfort. He walked back to his throne and sat down. The drawing still in his hand? I do not know if we can learn this from them, but I intend to try. And any lord who stands against this order will answer to me, personally. No one spoke. No one dared. 10 years later, Hannah stood in that same throne room. She was 17 now, tall and graceful, wearing the robes of an imperial diplomat. She did not remember the night in the emperor's study. She did not know what she had done. But Emperor Kale remembered. He kept the handkerchief in his private chambers. He had never washed it. The drawing hung in his meditation alcove, surrounded by cushions and soft light. When people asked why he had changed the empire, he always gave the same answer. A child taught me that strength without kindness is just cruelty with better weapons. And I grew tired of being cruel. He watched Hannah bow and leave the throne room, ready to build bridges between humans and Velthari. She would never know what she had started, but the yellow sun in the drawing would shine forever.